righty, let's go. Let's do this thing. Hello, everybody. I want to welcome our state national friends watching. Stay tuned to the end today. You won't want to miss a thing, I promise you. Everybody grab your Bibles and hold them up and say, this is my Bible.
This is my Bible.
I am what it says I am.
I am what it says I am.
I have what it says I have.
I have what it says I have.
And I can do what the Bible says I can do.
And I can do what the Bible says I can do.
Today I'll be taught the Word of God.
Today I'm taught the Word of God.
And I boldly confess.
I boldly confess.
My mind is alert.
My mind is alert.
My heart is receptive.
My heart is receptive.
And I'll never be the same again.
And I'll never be the same again.
Never, 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 in Jesus' name, amen. All right, turn to the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes, or however you want to say it, okay? It's page 757. All right. With what's going on in Israel right now, and just to kind of date this message, today Israel's preparing a ground invasion. But do you really want to call it an invasion? It's their property, right?
Right.
So, how about a reclaiming of their territory, if it were? So, a lot of people are going to talk about the prophetic implications and, boy, this is for real on that. A lot of people are going to talk about some different aspects of what's going on. I want to kind of manage our expectation of what's going on in this. So many times we as Christians who've been forgiven by Jesus walk in love, 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 peace, 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 joy, joy, joy. And that's all true and valid, okay? But the Jewish people don't really operate under the new covenant, do they? No. They're operating under the old covenant. And let me make this clear. God honors them in that, because that's still the covenant He has with them. So as we've watched this thing the last 8 days, this is the 9th day, a lot of people go, oh, those poor people, yeah, there's going to be all of that kind of stuff. But let's take a look at what to expect and why. So, Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. Did you like that song, Farron? It says, to everything there is a season and a time and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit has he that works in that wherein he labors? I've seen travail, which God has given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He has made everything beautiful in His time. Also, He has set the world in their heart, that no man can find out the work that God makes from the beginning to the end. You know, we sang that song by the Byrds. Yeah. See, that song's for the Byrds, isn't it? But the reason is because it's a reference to that. It's singing that scripture, realize that, look, to everything there is a season and a purpose and a time. And sometimes we have to be, well, always, we have to be sensitive to that time and that moment. of, is this a time for this or is this a time for that? And yet, so many people, well, there's never a time for the one. It's always this. No, it's not. To everything, there's a season and a purpose and a time. So without getting into all the prophecies about what's going on right now, which I know there's going to be a lot of people talking about that, turn to the book of Numbers, chapter 31. Let's kind of take a look and see what God thinks about war, what His decisions and expectations are of battle. And in verse 1 of chapter 31 of Numbers, "And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Avenge the children of Israel of the Midianites. Afterward thou shalt be gathered unto thy people. And Moses spake unto the people, saying, Arm some of yourselves unto the war, and let them go against the Midianites, and avenge the Lord of Midian. And of every tribe 1,000 throughout all the tribes of Israel shall you send to the war. So there were delivered out of the thousands of Israel 1,000 of every tribe, and 12,000 armed for war. And Moses sent them to the war, 1,000 of every tribe, them and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, to the war, with the holy instruments and the trumpets to blow in his hand. And they warred against the Midianites as the Lord commanded Moses, and they slew all the males." So who commanded them to do this? God did, right? They slew all the males. "And they slew the king of Midian beside the rest of them that were slain, namely Ebi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, Reba." Oh, Reba was there. 5 kings of Midian. Balaam, also the sons of Beor, they slew with the sword. "And the children of Israel took all the women of Midian captives, and their little ones, and took the spoil of all their cattle, their flocks, and their goods. And they burned all their cities wherein they dwelt, and all their goodly castles with fire. And they took all the spoil and all the prey, of both men and of beast. And they brought the captives and the prey and the spoil unto Moses and Eleazar the priest, and to the congregation of the children of Israel unto the camp at the plains of Moab, which are by the Jordan near Jericho." So let's just stop here for a second. Look at what happened here. God, told them to destroy him, right? So what they do? They killed the men of war. And we're okay with that, aren't we? You let those soldiers, fighting age guys, all that kind of stuff. I'm hearing this kind of stuff from all sorts of different sources. Okay, the men, that's one thing. But here, it's like, well, but they let the women and children pass, right? Let's keep reading. "And Moses and Eleazar the priest and all the princes of the congregation went forth to meet them without the camp. And Moses was wroth with the officers of the host, with the captains over thousands and captains over hundreds, which came from the battle. And Moses said to them, Have you saved all the women alive? Behold, these caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to commit trespass against the Lord in the matter of Peor. And there was a plague among the congregation of the Lord. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that has known a man lying with him." That sounds pretty harsh, doesn't it? Here they come back, they're like, man, we spared the women and the younger people. And they're so proud of themselves for doing that. And yet God makes it really clear here why he wanted the women killed, didn't he? People right now they're overlooking that part with all the tragedy that's going on. And look, I'm not denying that it's a horrible experience. Okay? I'm not denying that at all. I'm glad that I'm not having to go through what they're going through right now. I am. And I'm glad that most of the ones around us right now don't have small children. But keep in mind, when God says destroy it all, He's got a reason for it. What about Abraham? When he had a son out of the will of God, Ishmael. Right? We know what Ishmael represents right now. It's Iran. That's the problem that we're continuing to have with them still to this day. Is that. Now, having said that, God Himself made it pretty clear. Don't hurt him. Don't touch him. And yet, look at everything that's happening right now. God never said, don't kill his offspring. God just said, don't touch him. Are we good? Yeah, I was telling Marcella Farron earlier that this isn't going to be a really woohoo message. But right now, what you guys are hearing on the news and seeing in all your sources of media, you're going to hear different things. You're going to hear, how could a loving God? And yet, Benjamin Netanyahu is making these decisions of, you know what? You did this to us. We're going to wipe you off the map. And he's within his God-given instruction to do just that. They have said that today they're opening up a place for a border in Egypt for them to get out of. They've been told, the Palestinians have been told, get out if you want out. Doesn't seem fair to them being caught in the middle, does it? It never does. Never seems fair to those who we perceive and we say are innocent. But let me ask you this. It's one of those things that scriptures that people like to use when they're leading somebody to Jesus or telling them about Jesus. There is none righteous, no, not one. Right? There is none that seek after God. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. People love to use that scripture out of context, I might add, with how relevant it is in these type of situations. So, as you hear people say, and look, I'm having to deliver this way. All right? So it is what it is. But as you hear people say all these things that, oh, the children were innocent. There's none righteous, no, not one. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. All that don't know Him. This age of accountability stuff is not in the Bible. It's just not. It's not. So, with the women and the children and what you think are innocent, or what you hear are innocent, and what you perceive that they've done nothing wrong, I'm not advocating for this. This is happening today. It's been happening for the last 8 days. It's been happening for the last 6,000 years. I don't have to advocate for it. It's going on regardless. This isn't going to happen or not happen because of what I say today. I'm letting you know what's getting ready to happen in addition to what's already happened and what God says about it. Not what your feelings say about it. Not the media taking sides say about it. Because there's some that, oh yeah, Israel has a right to defend themselves. Well, to a point. Okay? It's an appropriate response. Well, what does that mean? You killed 1,300 of ours, we killed 1,300 of yours, we're even? That's what they're trying to tell you an appropriate response is. Or a proportionate response. What a proportionate response is if you have one terrorist in a building with one gun and 200 citizens, residents in there to bomb the whole building because of that one person that's in there, that's not a proportionate response. Now, if you have 100 terrorists in a place and they're storing munitions and they're holding hostages and all this other stuff, and you destroy that building with them in it, that's a proportionate response. So it's not one for one. That is not how that works. So you're going to hear these terms, and then when you hear these terms, it's going to be, well, that's not fair. All they did was just go in and invade and kill, 1,000. And what they did with the kids, unprovoked, by the way, when is enough? According to God, and we're going to look at this a couple other places here, because while we're there, turn to Deuteronomy chapter 20. What is enough? What is a proportionate response? In Deuteronomy chapter 20, let's start at verse 1. Now, has anybody read or heard about The Art of War by Sun Tzu? This is the art of war by God. When thou goest out into battle against thine enemies, and seest horses and chariots and a people more than thou, be not afraid of them, for the Lord thy God is with thee, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And it shall be, when you are come near to the battle, that the priest shall approach and speak unto the people, and shall say unto them, Hear, O Israel, you approach this day into battle against your enemies. Let not your hearts faint, fear not, and do not tremble, neither be terrified because of them. And even though the media hasn't shown it, I can promise you, the priests have already spoken to the ones that are preparing to go into battle. They've already been spoken to. For the Lord your God is he that goes with you, to fight for you against your enemies, to save you. And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, What man is there that has built a new house and has not dedicated it? Let him go and return his house, or to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man dedicate it. And what man is he that has planted a vineyard and has not yet eaten of it? Let him go and return unto his house, lest he die in battle, and another man eat of it. And what man is there that has betrothed a wife, and has not taken her? Let him go and return unto his house, lest he die in battle, and another man take her. And the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, What man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return to his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart. And it shall be when the officers have made an end of speaking unto the people, that they shall make captains of the armies to lead the people. Doesn't that sound a lot like what God told, who was that told them, hey, if they're afraid, send them home. You got too many. Gideon, thank you. Boy, I just kind of drew, because my mind wasn't on that train there, right there. But what he told Gideon is like, you know what? If they've got other agendas, if they got other things going on in their head, if they're not focused on this, get rid of them. I mean, send them back if they're not capable of entering into this. I don't want them here. And he says in each case, lest he die in battle, lest he die in battle, lest he die in battle. So the ones who are distracted in this situation, period of time, like, John, this is accurate, right? Okay. I'm asking someone who actually is a soldier and has been put in these positions. The rest of us, we might have played a game or watched it on TV or played it as kids. But people that are distracted in this, they're not fit for battle. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to be called to battle, but they're not fit for it because they're focused and thinking about other things. We've been talking a lot about different things lately. And I want to say this. Well, I'm just going to say it. Everybody cleaned it up for me afterward. D takes a breath. Those of us who have things in our lives that are keeping us from being clear-headed, that are keeping us from being focused, that we're continuing to make excuses to have them in our lives. See, it's not just here. It's there too, but it's here too. This thing's happening right now. You've been told, you've been warned for the last several years that the time to prepare, we're past that. If you're not prepared by now, and you don't have those things out of your life by now, you're just not ready. And yet it's happening anyway. And then you get to be like those people that have been told and told. It's like, well, we're ready now. Too late. Too late. If you still have those things in your life, get them out. Get them out. Now. Stop making excuses. Because to everything there's a season and a time. This is that season. This is that time. Well, that was fun. Verse 10. When thou comes near to the city to fight against it, then proclaim peace to it. And for the last probably 40 years, Israel's tried to live in peace in that situation. They proclaimed it. They tried. Sometimes they just don't want peace. And it shall be, if it make answer of peace, then open unto thee, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries unto thee, and they shall serve thee. So see, even in this place where, I heard the news this morning, because every now and then I'll watch this fake news just to hear what they're saying, so I can compare their lies to the truth. And they're like, well, the Palestinians are having to leave their land. It's not their land. It never was their land. But when they say stuff like that to ignorant people, that ignorant just means unaware, unless you continue to be ignorant, and then it means stupid. They're telling people this to feel sorry for them. And it's, right now, it's still, Israel's defending themselves. That's going to turn. Just like, has anybody noticed the media kind of turning on Biden a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That the ones that endorsed and supported him so much are now starting to turn against him just a little bit. Watch, the same thing's going to happen here as this moves forward. They're going to be saying, Israel, that you've got your, there, you've done what you said you're good. Now stop. But they're not going to stop until there's not one left. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't. In verse 12 it says, I think that's where I'm at, yes. And if it will make no peace with thee, but will make war against thee, then thou shalt besiege it. Is that not what's happening right now? And when the Lord thy God has delivered it into thine hands, and make no mistake, he will, thou shalt smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. But the women and the little ones and the cattle and all that's in the city, even the spoil thereof, thou shalt take unto thyself, and thou shalt eat the spoil of thine enemies, which the Lord thy God has given me. Stay with me. Thus shalt thou do unto the cities which are very far off from thee, which are not of the cities of these nations, but of the cities of these people which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. Thou shalt save alive nothing that breathes. Nothing that breathes. But thou shalt utterly destroy them. But thou shalt utterly destroy them. Namely, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivitites, the Jebusites, as the Lord thy God has commanded thee. And here's why. That they teach you not to do after their abominations, which they have done unto their gods. So should you sin against the Lord your God. God has a reason for this. It's not just that he's like, well, just kill them all, and just because. He's like, no, if you don't, it's going to come up and bite you later. It's the same with things that we allow in our lives. If you don't kill all of it, it's going to fester and invite more. You can't be partially saved, kind of free, partially free. You either are or you aren't. And like I said, I know this sounds hard, coming out hard. It is. It is hard. Okay? It's not easy for me to deliver, but I don't really have a choice, because remember what I talked about a couple weeks ago. I don't answer to you. I answer to him. You do with it what you will, because you kind of have for the last however many years you've been on the earth. You've done what you wanted to anyway. But that time's over, guys. It's so over that it's not even an option anymore. And you heard it here first. I want to read 18 again. That they teach you not after all their abominations, which they have done unto their gods, so you should sin against the Lord your God. When thou shalt besiege a city a long time in making war against it to take it, thou shalt not destroy the trees thereof by forcing an axe against them, for thou mayst eat of them. Thou shalt not cut them down, for a tree of the field is man's life, to employ them in the siege. In other words, Don't kill the trees that are bearing fruit, the vegetables and the things that are growing. You're going to need those. You're going to eat on those while we're doing this. And plus, once you take the city, once you take that territory, you don't want to start from scratch, because it takes years sometimes from the time you plant a fruit tree or vegetable tree, is it? Because there's trees that, just normally don't hear a vegetable tree, but yeah. It takes years for those to develop to a point where you can eat the fruit of it. So he's like, look, you ain't going to have time to start from scratch. Then he says, only the trees which thou knowest that they be not trees for meat, thou shalt destroy, cut them down, and build bulwarks against the city that makes war with thee, until it be subdued. You get that? Until it be subdued. People have this idea that once Israel feels like they got their pound of flesh, that they're going to stop. Don't think that. I don't think they're going to, and I don't think they should. Remember, we're in a new covenant, right? They're operating under the old one, and God is honoring that. So if you try to think about what's happening now in your new covenant mind, it's like trying to read the Bible with a 20th century mentality. There's things that, there's cultures that they meant then that they might not be the same now. But they know exactly what they're doing, and they know why they're doing it. I'm assuming everybody knows about what's going on over there. I mean, I guess. If not, you got some catching up to do, people. Now, if you would, turn to the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 15. Ooh, yeah. Thank you, Lord. And in verse 1 it says, Samuel, which was the prophet, said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou to the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, or thus saith the Lord of hosts. Even though it's Samuel speaking, it's God talking. I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man, woman, infant, and suckling, ox, sheep, camel, and ass. And Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telaim, 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to a city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley. And Saul said unto the Kenites, Go, depart you down from among the Amalekites. Man, they said, lest I destroy you with them. They were warned, weren't they? So take this in context to what Israel has told the Palestinians. Go, get out of here. There's an exit in Egypt. If you're still here when we start, you'll get destroyed with them. You've been warned. You've been told. Now, I do understand that Hamas, the terrorist, are telling those people not to leave, but they like using human shields. That's just what they do. And as far as God's concerned, if you use a human as a shield, then it's necessary to go through the shield to get to the person behind it. It's just the way it is in war. For you showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Egypt, so the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. And Saul smote those guys. I'm having a hard time acting like I know how to pronounce these words here. Did you catch a little accent here and there? Until thou comest to Shur, that's over against Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. Now, what did God tell him to do in verse 3? But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them. But everything that was vile and refuse, they destroyed utterly. Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, It repents me that I've set Saul up to be a king, for he's turned back from following me, and has not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. Whew. How many times have we heard God say, It repenteth me that I made man. It repenteth me that I did this. And here he's like, that's not who I want to be king anyway, and I regret even telling you to anoint him. And when Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning, it was told Samuel, saying, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set him up a place, and has gone out and passed on, and gone to Gilgal. And Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed be thou of the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord. No, he didn't. Did he? No. And Samuel said, What means then this bleating of the sheep in my ears, and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the beasts of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice to the Lord thy God, and the rest we have utterly destroyed. Catch this. He's going to the prophet saying, Hey, we did exactly what's that noise I hear? Is that animals screaming? Animals crying? What's going on there? What? And what does the prophet have to say? I'm having done what you were told to do. You wouldn't do it. But God said it needed to be done anyway. Do you think that what Netanyahu's going through right now and some of the decisions he's making? Tough situation. Then Samuel said unto Saul, Stay, and I will tell thee what the Lord hath said to me this night. And he said unto him, Say on. And Samuel the prophet said, When thou wast little in thy own sight, was thou not made the head of tribes of Israel, and the Lord anointed thee king over Israel? I've heard this been taught in leadership situations, It's like, well, don't get puffed up when you get promoted into a situation. But here he's like, when you were small in your own sight, didn't God promote you? And now you're no longer small in your own sight. You're so full of yourself now that God can't even use you. And the Lord sent thee on a journey and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil? and didst evil in the sight of the Lord. And Saul said unto Samuel, Yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag the king of Amalek, and that is how I've heard it said, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. Ugh. But the people took the spoil. So he can't even accept his own blame and responsibility for this now. He's like, I did exactly what you said, but the people, they're the ones that took the spoil. They're the ones that took the animals. They're the one that took all the good stuff. It wasn't me. But the people took the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which thou should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. That they took it so they could sacrifice it to you, God. That's why they took it. I mean, what a load of crap. Have you ever heard the expression, who do you think you're fooling? And Samuel said, hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken better than the fat of rams. We've heard that before. Obedience is better than sacrifice. But when you put it in context of what he was saying, why he was saying it, who he was saying it to, all of a sudden, okay, well, you can't get rid of that habit or whatever. Obedience is better than sacrifice. It'd be better if you would. No. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. We want to be stubborn and hold on to our stuff and our wrong ideas and our negative emotions and the thoughts and the things that we do and allow in our lives that are against God. I mean, and be stubborn about it. God says it's as iniquity and idolatry, because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord. He also has rejected thee from being king. And then I think about some of the scriptures in Ezekiel where it says, when I say unto the wicked, O wicked man, thou shalt surely die. If you don't warn the wicked, then he'll die in his sin. But God will hold you accountable. Remember, I was preaching that a couple weeks ago. If you weren't here, go back and listen to it. I don't have time to go back and cover everything for the people that weren't here. So that's why we put it on there. It's like, but if you say to the wicked, you'll surely die, then you've delivered your own self. The goal in this isn't to deliver our own conscience. The goal is that you change. The goal is that we change. Jesus didn't sin, or God didn't send his son for the sin of the world so we could continue sinning. He sent him so we could overcome sin and be with him in heaven. Well, let's get that straight. That this is not, Grace 101. It just isn't. Oh, okay. All right. I'm moving on. She's not telling me to. I'm just doing it. Let's look at Matthew 24 real quick. Because I didn't want to just stay in the Old Testament about this. I also thought, well, I might want to bring it into some New Covenant too, so the Jesus followers could understand it better. Because up to now, they're, it's Matthew 24, verse 6. And this is familiar. I mean, I've But let's look at it. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Okay, we've heard of wars and rumors of wars for a long, long time, right? Been going on. But is there a war going on right now in Israel? Is there a war going on right now in Ukraine? Okay? Are there rumors of wars that might be amplified with China and Iran? Huh? And to drag North Korea in and some of these others. Are those just rumors? Right now, yeah. These are wars and rumors of wars. Yeah, when I said this so many years ago and preached this, people like, you're so negative. Well, how do you feel about that now? And he says, all these things must come to pass, but the end's not yet. But he also says, see to it that you're not troubled. You don't have to freak out and worry about it. You just don't. First of all, we have a God. We have a Savior, His Son. We have each other, and we have a plan. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. And that beginning is just the starting point. See, I listen. This is just the starting point of things. And then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Now he's talking to the Jews here, isn't he? Or any others that were included later. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets will rise and deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved. And if you want to just kind of write down, we're not going to go there right now, but Revelation 13, 7, and 8 would be something to make a good notation there. And while you're thinking about Revelation, go to Revelation 19. I am going to be able to land this sucker in time. I wasn't sure if I could. Not that the Word of God's a sucker, but you know. But Revelation 19, 11. Because remember, we were talking about God's concept, idea of war in the Old Covenant, right? What He expected then. We're like, yeah, but we're in a new covenant, and God thinks completely different now. He's so full of grace and peace and love. You know, He's not like that anymore. Well, Revelation 19 is kind of at the end of all of this. So let's see if God changed His mind. Let's see if God changed the way He deals with things. And by the way, I've left a lot of records of conflict out in this hour. But Revelation 19, verse 11. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness does he judge. And what? Make war. Well, wait a minute. What about old peaceful Jesus here? According to this, in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. You think you don't have to comply to this book? What kind of fools are you people? I looked at the camera when I said that because I didn't worry about that was a little too strong there. but I meant it. And his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon... Wait a minute. If it's all peace and everything, what were armies in heaven? Sounds to me like he might be prepared for a conflict of some sort. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen. Remember that teaching? I'm just saying, white and clean. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that it should smite the nations. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress in the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. At this point, let me make this real clear. Jesus is loving. He died for our sins. But he is a warrior, okay? And who's instructing him right now? At the fierceness and the wrath of Almighty God. Does he, we always like to say, well, Jesus did only what he saw the Father do. He said only what he heard the Father say. Right here, he's being instructed by that same Father. And I'll just say it like this. God hadn't gotten over all the sins of the people. God hadn't gotten over the rebellion of the people. God hadn't gotten over Lucifer and his rebellion in heaven. God hadn't gotten over that. We're alive and blessed because of Jesus. Make no mistake about that. Make no mistake about that. Without Jesus, we're as good as utterly destroyed. You know, if you destroy something, that's one thing. But if you utterly destroy it, there's no memory of it anymore. It's gone. You ain't getting it back. It's utterly destroyed. So, as Jesus treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of God, who is just, who is holy, who is righteous, and the things that he's commanded him to do are holy and just and righteous, and the things that Israel is about to do, even though there will be women and children who, I'm not even going to call them collateral damage. They're just part of what needs to be destroyed. Boy, that's hard. In our thinking nowadays, that's so hard to say things like that because we're just not used to seeing this type of judgment from God. We're just not. And make no mistake, it's from God. So as the Prime Minister of Israel makes these decisions and these things happen and these horrible atrocities, if you want to feel sorry for the devil, please don't tell me about it. You know? I mean, and when I say that, I'm also including the men, the women, the children, the things that the media is calling collateral damage. You can't feel sorry for that because it's part of the rest of the evil. If you don't deal with it now when it's a small habit, then it controls your life and destroys it. If they let, like they have for years and years and years, instead of utterly destroying them, now these are the ones that have grown up And now that they're having to fight again because they couldn't finish it the first time. Everything I'm hearing, I don't have any insight that you don't. Okay, I'm not like, I'll talk to Benjamin. No, not like. But everything I'm hearing from the sources that I'm listening to are saying that, they're going to do the whole thing. And they should. So now let's go back to this. I'm going to repeat myself just a little bit. Verse 15, and out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, and with it he should smite the nations. Now, when you read that, he'll smite the nations. Hey guys, what are nations made up of? People. So when he smites the nations, these are people that he's smiting or destroying. But we read it like a nation, like it just, it's just one little place. These are people that inhabit this place. Look at Sodom and Gomorrah. Those were people that were in there. The Tower of Babel, these were people. People are going to die. More people are going to die in this war that's happening right now. Have you ever heard somebody in a fight say, I didn't start it, but I'm sure going to finish it? And that's the way this is. Look, that's just going to happen. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron. It's not a feather being waved now or a palm leaf. And he treads the winepress in the fierceness, the wrath of Almighty God. And he has on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying unto all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God, that ye may eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. Who's he talking about here? Jesus and his army. And who are you? Who are we? If you obey him and serve him, you're part of that. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, in which he deceived them and had received the mark of the beast and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which a sword proceeded out of his mouth. And all the fowls were filled with their flesh. Strength is a deterrent of war, right? The United States is a nuclear power. Therefore, we operate in a certain strength because of that. That is a deterrent of war. Because all Biden's got to do is wake up from his nap and hit a button, and that's gone. Well, Israel, also nuclear war, or power. I'm not saying that to see to it that they don't go through what they went through in 1940s, 30s and 40s with Hitler. They're not going to be annihilated again. They are literally fighting for their existence, for their right to live on this earth. And frankly, you back somebody in that kind of a corner, whatever they do, it's in defense of their way of life. So I don't know what this is going to escalate to, or if, I don't know. I don't know if this is that, but this is this. So paying attention to it's kind of important. And I also wrote down here, you can't call yourself peaceful unless you're capable of violence. Remember earlier we were talking about try to live in peace? But you can't call yourself peaceful unless you're capable of violence. If you aren't capable of violence, you aren't peaceful, you're harmless. And I know us as believers, we want to live in peace with all men if possible. But make no mistake, the body of Christ, the army of God, is capable and willing and able to do what's necessary to protect our people. Just like Israel. Because we're part of them. We are. We're part of them. You know, I've got a second here, so turn to Joel. And you know I'm not going to wait for you to find it. Joel chapter 3, verse 9. It'll be up on the screen. It says, proclaim ye among the Gentiles, prepare for war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Isn't that what has been called? Joel chapter 3, verse 9. Isn't that what they did? They called up all the people who were of fighting age. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I'm strong. This has never been more relevant than now, because they were attacked and some horrible things happened. And at this point, you know what? Farming stops. All this other things we've been doing, that all stops. We're going to beat our plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. And with that, if you're scared, as some are, and I get that and all that, let the weak say I'm strong. You know, it's the time that you're getting ready to go to war. Don't you have to kind of talk yourself through it sometimes?
No, all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Let the weak say I'm strong. In other words, I can do this. Assemble yourselves and come, all you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put you in the sickle, the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, and the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. You know, here he's not taught, and people have taken, see, I think about some of the churches and altar calls that they do and things like that. And like, thrust in the sickle, the harvest is ripe. That's not what he's talking about here. That they have misquoted and misinterpreted this scripture to make it seem like, oh, it's an evangelistic yahoo. Thrust in the sickle, people are ready. It's not what he's saying here. Multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Has anybody else heard that used in an evangelistic reference? Well, there's people here that are in the valley of decision. Shut up. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. Can we all say amen? Father, I agree with your word. And just like Psalm 122:6 says, we pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Whatever it takes to bring that peace, we agree with, Father. We stand with them, we stand for them, and we stand against anyone and anything that would attack or challenge them. As for me in this house, we'll serve you, God. Lord, I also thank you for the meal that's been prepared, that it brings sustenance to our body, so we can serve you in a greater way. Oh, Lord. Have your way, Lord. And bless your children, Israel. Amen.